Hi guys, Two Scoops presents a few thoughts on Black history. Let's get right into it. 1. The Black History Month is a time to remember and appreciate the wrongs and sufferings of the past, not to color the present with the paint of victimhood, but to make sure a better future is built without repeating the same mistakes and injustice of the past. Be aware that being passive to oppression is as much of a mistake as being the oppressor. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter.
Over the years, black people have been through a lot, like from slavery to segregation to the implicit forms of racism we see today. So as with everything else in life, one may feel justified to complain when someone does us wrong. This is a time in which what matters is to complain about someone else's wrongdoing and expect them to fix things instead of taking matters to our own hands. And the thing about victimhood is that it has a way of making things not happen. This is not to say that the wrongs of the past didn't happen or the sufferings weren't real, but a call to start asking yourself what you can do instead of asking what others should do to make things better. And that starts with you, as it was the case of many of the black leaders who actually managed to make things happen. They stopped complaining and they started doing.
2. Racism is a plague society managed to corner at the expense of the blood and tears of many who came before us. The key word here is corner, not extinguish. To say that the plague is extinguished is to say that microscopic life doesn't exist just because you can't see it. Saying it's not real doesn't make it unreal.
This is an emerging problem of the day. It's true that racism is not what it once was. It's true that black people today can do more than they were allowed before. But the thing is that some people force to conclude that just because things got better, that somehow the problem is solved. Like, I'm talking to people of all races here. Like, some don't see it because they're willfully blind, and some don't see it because they're not paying attention or enough attention. Racism took a different form, and to see it for what it is, you have to look for different things or for different signs. It's like having the common cold change its symptoms, and just because you don't see a person sneezing, you automatically assume that the common cold no longer exists. We can't fight the new racism with old weapons. Banning words and banning people is not enough anymore. The question is, how can you truly change a person's mind about racial equality? Answering this question is much more difficult than automatically resorting to punishment once you see a person saying the wrong word.
3. Today there are two large groups of people. The first sees racism in everything even when there is nothing to see. The second sees no racism even when its manifestations are as obvious as the blueness of the sky. Both believe the other side is extremist in its ways, but what neither realizes is that life is hardly a black or white game. The way to start making any kind of progress is to see problems only where there are problems to see.
This is one of the biggest problems we face. Today, more and more people adhere to the black or white kind of mentality. That group is evil, we're the good guys, they're ignorant, and we're the smart ones. And this problem is made worse with the way social media is designed. On the Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma, the speakers bring up the fact that the modern social media applications are designed to give you more and more of what you want or like or believe in. So if you believe that there is some racism, you're more likely to slowly be pushed to the extreme belief that racism is everywhere because you're only gonna get posts about racism, right? If you believe that racism is not real, you get more and more fed into your brain that there is no such thing as racism. There is all a hoax, that somebody is manufacturing a story, right? That's not real. Post by post, video by video, you become an extremist. And the thing is that racism does exist, but it's not as extreme as people out there make us believe. I think it's time for us as a society to learn to identify true racism if we want to make any progress at all. Because if we pretend it doesn't exist, the same problems of the past will carry over to the future. If we see it everywhere, we get lost in trivialities on things that don't actually matter, on things that are not actually signs of racism, and we fail to focus and address what actually matters. And again, the same problems of the past carry over to the future.
And we don't want that to happen. 4. Slavery as a practice has been abolished a long while ago, but just like racism, it too got a second shot at life. It evolved from the more obvious physical version to the more insidious mental one. The slave of today has its own complex of inferiority as a master.
When we think about slavery, we only picture the slave being forced to work on the plantation by the master. So we're mistaken when we think that this is no longer an issue. Today's slave is forced to do less by its own lack of belief in itself. The thing is that if there is one thing the descendants of slavery inherited, that was the feeling of being less than. And this is the kind of problem that doesn't solve itself. Meaning that if the parent feels less than, the child will learn that and apply that to itself. And when you have a generation after generation of people who feel incapable of thriving, what you have is a lineage that is incapable of thriving. And this mentality is reinforced more and more deeply until someone puts a stop to it. The way to do more is to believe you can do more, regardless of whether you know about the how or not. And if you have to be someone's slave, let it be to the unwavering belief that you can accomplish great things.
5. The stories of how Black leaders fought and in some cases died to improve the conditions of their people can be taken in one of two ways. The first is to remind oneself about how their people were once enslaved and how that led to the way the present looks like today. A group of people who as a whole is not perceived in a good light. The second is to be grateful for the new world of possibilities available today and with them to vow to impact the world in a more positive manner. And as a result, making Blackness not just about oppression, but also about something more.
For a while now, Blackness has been about oppression. When someone thinks about Black people on this age of social media, what most people think about or what most people picture is someone being a victim of an oppressive system, someone lacking opportunities, someone not being able to thrive, right? But I feel like Blackness can be more than that. I feel like instead of inspiring pity, more should be done to inspire awe and admiration, and that starts with a simple change in mentality.
So, what do you think, guys? Inspire us with your thoughts. Until next time, let the heritage flow. Happy Black History Month. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.